Hey hotties, welcome back to another Hot Friday. Thanks for joining me. I'm Leslie, also known as the Hot Mommy, and today we're going to be talking about the one thing that you truly need to help you glow up. If that's something you're looking for, stay tuned. This video is just for you. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for sticking with me. If you haven't already, be sure to click that bell and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss a Hot Friday. I have been super excited to share this video with you guys because I'm of the belief that if we're thinking about something, there are definitely other people out there thinking about it too. Nothing that we go through, we ever go through on our own. And largely, the reason that we think we're going through it by ourselves is because we don't talk about it. And so today, I want to talk to you about what I think is the most essential item that you need to help your life glow up, shine, get better, and all of that good stuff. Everyone's always talking about a glow up. But when they're referring to the glow up, they're usually talking about clothes, hair, teeth, face. It's always something physical. And while those things matter truly, because I do believe that how we look on the outside can help us how we feel on the inside, I think that there's one thing that we all need to keep in mind when we're worrying about a glow up. Because without this, you can only go so far. For the majority of my life, I grew up as a very churchy kid. Like, I'm talking about in church on Sundays, at church on Wednesdays for Bible study, choir rehearsal on Thursday, dance practice on Friday, and if there was a production, then I was there on Saturday too. There was no day that I wasn't there with it. And while I'm appreciative of that upbringing and even grateful for all of the things that I learned, I don't go to church like that anymore. And I will always say this, even though I haven't attended church on a regular basis, probably in about a decade, that has never, ever, ever meant that my relationship and my faith in God has waned at all. In fact, I even wrote a blog about this a couple of years ago where I talked about my absence from church did not have anything to do with my absence of faith or absence of belief. And I'm always so grateful for the things that I learned because I truly believe that it was the best foundation for my life. It allowed me to be a person that understands, like, believing for something, believing in things that maybe I don't see. That being said, I think that sometimes the religiosity and kind of the, traditions and the rituals that we go through in some of our places of faith, be that temple, be that, the mosque or the church, sometimes actually create more of a chasm and more of a distance between us and God. I think that a lot of the rules and regulations that are put into place are there to keep certain people in power and certain people beneath them, because power allows you to keep people in control, right? Power is how you get control. And so I think that sometimes we'll have people missing out on the true love of God or the true things that they can experience from God because the people who are supposedly in power are telling them that they cannot access that without them. In the decade that I've kind of like taken on my own to discover my own faith, discover and dive deeply into my own beliefs, I recognize and have discovered some things about vision, about manifestation, and about really creating the life that I desire that is not necessarily separate and apart from God, but may not always include the church. Say that as just a little background because I want people to understand where I come from when I talk about this. I think that so many of the principles that were very biblical in my life, even though I'm not at church anymore, I think that they largely can pertain to so many things and to all of our lives in a different way. If you're paying attention to what's happening in the world, everybody is looking for a connection, right? And so this is why we're very invested in community. This is why we're all looking for people to hold on to, especially in such a digital world where we have these very parasocial relationships where it's like we know people, but we don't really know them, but we think we do. So we're all in search of something to connect to. This is also why you hear a lot of people talking about like manifestation and how they, call things into their life. That is really something that I learned at church first and foremost. I think about calling those things that be not as though they were, which means like, even though I may be living in this situation right now, I'm able to call and pray to God to bring things into my life to change my circumstance so that this circumstance is not the continuous thing that I'm experiencing. I grew up hearing like write the vision down and make it plain. You know, in the Bible, that's in Habakkuk 2:2, right? Now, in this life, people are always talking about manifestation lists, you know, making a vision board, making a prayer board. And so all of these things are kind of like coexisting and coinciding, which lets me know that that is just the way of humanity. That everybody has the ability to speak life into their world or to speak death into their world. That also refers back to the Bible, how I grew up, which is that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Or, you know, our words create our world. You know, those are things that we constantly hear about. And so even if you haven't grown up in church per se, or maybe you know, didn't grow up as a person who experienced a lot of faith in your life, it doesn't mean that you haven't heard about it or that you haven't been like attuned to what's happening around. Some of the things that I think that people are missing when they're looking to call in their prayer or bring forth their manifestation or call in the life that they want to lead is really vision. Vision is the #1 requirement for a glow up. There is no way that you can change your life if you don't have a vision for it. There is no way that you can call something different into your life if you don't see it before it comes. And that's what I want to talk to you about today and show you how I've been able to create a vision for my life to really bring forth the type of world that I want to have. So first and foremost, you have to know that your vision is never just about you. If you're having a hard time changing your life and calling other things into your world, you really need to look at like the vision that you hold for yourself. And if the vision that you hold for yourself is just like, I want to be rich so that I can do something so that I'm able to do, this is largely why you're not bringing it forth and why you're not experiencing it. When we come into this world, we already come here like full. You know what I mean? And even though that sounds strange, like, well, we don't know anything or we don't have anything or we can't verbalize it, that's why it even makes more sense. Because you're not coming here knowing that anything's wrong with you, that anything's like bad about you. You come here just like to receive love. And so the vision that you want and that you have for your life really is kind of already inside you. Most of us have an experience where we're not necessarily in spaces where the vision that we hold for ourselves is always cultivated. And so this is why we spend the majority of our life trying to get back to what that was. But in that vision, whatever it is that you have, you'll recognize as you start to unfold and start to discover it, that your vision for yourself includes other people. Because we are all connected. Whether we want to believe it or not, whether we like accept that or not, our worlds are connected. We are all here to do something for one another. And so even if the vision that you have inside of you seems small, quote unquote, it's not. The thing that you do is dynamic and can affect someone else. If that's, I have a vision to be a mother. I have a vision to like, you know, mother children and give. That means that you are giving to the next generation. Your vision brings forth other people. It brings forth life. If you have a vision because you're like, you know what I really want to do? I want to be an accountant. I want to like figure things out. There are people out there who hate math. You are the person that's going to help somebody else. And so your vision should always and will always include other people. And that really is the way to your glow up. If you only want to do something and it's just about you, it's not going to help you to grow. And it's certainly not going to help you to glow. There's a difference between being selfish in terms of setting boundaries, making sure that people are not running over you and taking advantage of you. That's self-care. But being selfish is meaning that you only want to do things if they benefit you. You're only going to stretch yourself if it's something that you can gain. And that really is not a vision that's going to help you glow. That's really just going to make you small. Secondly, you have to be able to bring your vision to life even before you have it. And so this is why people do things like, you know, make vision boards and they have it up on their wall and they, you know, like have manifestation lists, or, you know, I participate and do what's called To Be Magnetic, which is a program in a community where you do a lot of like meditations and you do a lot of journaling, and it's really great. And honestly, like, this is not paid at all, but it has been really transformational and pivotal for me with my mindset and my thinking. And again, as somebody who grew up in church, but like it's still longing and wants that connection, but needs it in a different way, the To Be Magnetic like program has really been helpful and thought-provoking for me in my life. It can help me like really connect the dots. And so what it talks about in that program is having what are called expanders. And so basically that means people that you can look at who've achieved what you're longing to achieve, so that you can see like it's possible, it can happen. And so that even goes back to that biblical principle of like writing the vision down, making it plain, making it be exactly what you want. And so you have to be able to see it. If we don't see that somebody else has done what we want to do, it is very challenging for our brain to even like communicate that it's possible for us to experience it. It's why representation and why people seeing, you know, themselves on television, in jobs, online, you know, in places around them means so much. Because if you never see anybody that looks like you doing what you want to do, it is a challenge for you to think that you can do it yourself. When I was young, and I say this, and every time I say it, I always preface it by being like, I recognize that this was problematic when I said it. However, I also understand why I was saying it the way that I did. So when I was in my like early 20s, mid 20s, something that I would always say with no like regard was, I want to live my life like a wealthy white woman. And while I realize now like that's problematic, because first of all, like white women are not the only people that get to be wealthy. You know, they're not the only people that get to choose what they do with their time. But for me, those were the only people that I saw that got to experience the type of life that I longed to have. It's not necessarily about stuff. It's not about having like nice bags and great shoes and a cool closet. I love all of those things. Like, I'm grateful to have it. But what it really was about was freedom and time and choice. I think, especially as Black women, we haven't always had choice. The privilege of choice is something that's so powerful. We don't get to choose whether or not we go to work. We don't get to choose whether or not we leave our children at home. We don't get to choose the kind of lifestyle or the places we get to live or the things that we get to do. And so what I really was desiring, what I've always wanted, is choice. I want choice. I want freedom of my time. I want to be able to do what I want when I want to. And if that means volunteering, if that means speaking to people, if that means making videos, if that's going shopping or going out to eat, all of those things, I want to live a life of leisure in the sense that I get to choose. The reason that I was making that problematic statement, 20 years ago is because I never saw anybody who looked like me who got to do that. Even sometimes now, I have a hard time finding people who are like living that type of lifestyle in the way that I want. I think that we have, thankfully, been able to lean into like Black women living soft lives and being at peace. And I love that for us. I think that it is so beautiful and so lovely, and I'm so grateful. And truthfully, it's why I started my platform. It's really why I chose the name Hot Mommy. It's why I love to like be on the internet, because I want people to see that my little life is something that you can have too if you so desire. It is important for you to see that vision. It's important for you to seek out people who are doing what you're doing and put it in front of you, right? And if that's following them online, if that's reading stories, magazines, whatever it is, put the vision in front of you so that you can know that it's real, that it exists, and it can become yours even before you're holding it in your hand. And number 3, finally, I think that having a vision requires 3 things. It requires a little bit of delusion, a lot of dreaming, and a whole lot of dogmatic movement. The reason it requires a little bit of delusion is because you're going to come up against people who tell you your vision can't happen. You're going to come up against somebody who says, girl, you're not about to be a millionaire, or boy, please, that's not a real job. You're going to come up against somebody that's going to look you in your face and tell you that what you're desiring and the vision you have for yourself is unattainable. It's going to happen. And so you have to be a little bit delulu. You have to be a little bit crazy to say, you know what? Maybe it is nuts, but I believe it for me. And just because you don't believe it for you doesn't mean I have to accept that. So I'm happy to live in my quote unquote delusion. I'm happy to look a little crazy because I know that this delusional part right here is going to get me to where I want to go. When I was a kid, all I wanted was to live in a specific neighborhood in a certain kind of house, and people was like, girl, you live in an apartment with 8 of your family members. What you mean? You ain't about to do that. When we moved and it was just my mom and my sister and I, it's like, you live in a 1-bedroom apartment. You live in a 1-bedroom apartment your whole life. You're not about to do that. You know what I mean? When I wanted to go to Howard, there were people that looked me in my face and were like, where are you getting money to do that? But I never allowed other people's thoughts. I never allowed whatever anybody else thought and saw for my life become what I saw for my life. I was willing to look crazy. I was willing to be delusional to bring my vision to pass. And that is how things happen in your life. Number 2, dreaming. You have to be willing to dream. Some people are very afraid of dreaming because they're afraid of disappointment. And you can't allow the fear of disappointment to keep you away from the pleasure of the dream. Whatever it is that you're wanting and that you're desiring, you can have that. Dream it. And if you're dreaming it, it's because it's already in your soul. It's because it's already been deposited in your heart. And so the dream is like, that's the universe. That's God. That's everything saying like, this is what I see for you. And sometimes it takes us to dream about something, to envision something before we can even bring it into our life. If your imagination won't even let you go there, how can life go there? Right? You can't even pretend that it'll happen for you. So if you can't even pretend, if you can't even dream that that'll happen, then you can't bring it to life because you don't see it for yourself. And those two things have to connect. So you have to be willing to dream a little bit. You have to be willing to sit back and write in your journal like, I'm on a yacht in the south of France. Like, you know what I mean? And even if you don't even have a passport, I don't care. Dream it. So thirdly and finally, after delusion and dreaming, you have to be dogmatic, which means that you have to push against everything that's telling you no and go for it anyway. One of the things that I've always been is very, very dogmatic about what I want to achieve. I'm going for it no matter what. I knew that I didn't want the circumstance of my life to be the story of my life. And that's something that I've always said, is that your circumstance is not your story. That's just something that you're experiencing now. It's a part of the story, but it's not the whole thing. And so even when people were telling me I couldn't go to school because I couldn't afford it, I always said, that's okay. I'm going to push for it anyway. I'm going to try anyway. I'm aiming to get a novel sold. And it can feel very challenging, you know, with the publishing industry being the way that it is. You know, it can be like, oh, people are not buying these type of books. But I believe and I trust and I'm going to push and I'm going to keep going because I know it'll happen for me. I refuse to accept that it won't. And so being dogmatic about whatever you want means pushing against the odds. It means saying yes in places to yourself where other people are telling you no. It means that you're going to have to get up and do a little more sometimes when you don't want to. And glowing up is really about pushing yourself to do things even when it's like easier to just sit down. Last year when I was like, you know what, I can sit here and I can complain about what my body looks like. I can have like very bad body dysmorphia. I can be leaning into that, or I can get up and I can challenge myself. I can challenge my body to do something different. And now it's been almost a year of me working out at least 5 to 6 days out of the week. I'm so happy and so like proud of myself. And not because of like the weight that I lost. Like, sure, that's great. It's a nice side effect. But what I've really learned is that I can trust myself. That if I push myself to do something and if I have like dogmatic, like, you know, no matter what, I'm gonna go get it, no matter what I feel like, you will be surprised at what you can do. You will be surprised at how you can change. And that in and of itself is a glow up. That in and of itself is making you a new person from the inside out. And so, sure, you can have a lot of stuff, right? I like my stuff, but even with all that stuff, I was feeling like not myself or not my best self. And it took me pushing. It took me like saying, you know what? I got to get back to being my delusional, dreaming, dogmatic self. The 3 Ds of the vision. You have to have them. And that is how you will bring things to pass in your life. Now I want to share a few examples with you of how I've been able to achieve some of these things myself. So the first thing I'll share with you is this picture. In 2018, or excuse me, 2015, my husband and I moved into the first house that we ever lived in together. So we had our apartment and then we moved into a house. At that time, we were trying to figure out like what we really wanted to do. Were we staying in California? Did we want to move? 5 years later, we were like, okay, it's really time for us to figure out what we want to do. Do we want to buy? You know, do we want to stay in California? Again, having the same kind of questions. And so at that time we had 3 kids. And so it was like, we're outgrowing the space that we're in. We need to do something else. So what I started doing was being delusional. I would like drive around neighborhoods that I wanted to live in because I was like, I'm just drive down the street like it's my street, right? That could look a little crazy to some people, like, girl, why are you in the people neighborhood? You know what I mean? Especially black folks. We be real like, you know, weird about just driving up and going to places where we quote unquote don't belong. But I was like, whatever, I'm gonna just drive up and down these streets. I'm gonna get comfortable. I'm gonna get familiar. And so I started like, 1, discovering a few neighborhoods that I didn't even know about, like close to where I live. But then 2, I started being like, oh, I'm comfortable here. This is my neighborhood. This is where I wanna live. And so every day, every other day, I would just drive up and down the street in the neighborhood. I would just be like going, and whether there was a house for sale I was looking at or not, I would just drive up and down the street. So that was the delusion of me being like, I'm gonna act like I live there. I'm gonna just drive up and down the street, going, you know, around looking at stuff. Sometimes I'll be making U-turns. People be at the end of the block looking at me, but I would just wave like, let me wave to my neighbors. Hey, like just waving, okay? Part 2 is the dream part, right? So I found a house in one of the neighborhoods that I liked. I was in love with this house. Y'all, I went to that house almost every other day. I would just drive past it and be like, okay, that's my house, that's my house, that's my house. I printed out a picture of the house, okay? Cut out a photo of my family and put us in the backyard, okay? Because I was like, my family, we live in this house. This was the dream. This was in 2020, okay? It is so. That's what I said. So this is me dreaming it. And I just set this behind me in my wall in my office. I was like, we're going to move. We're going to own a house. We're going to buy a house in California. Now, again, this might seem delusional to some people because you talk to some people, they're like, nobody can afford a house in California. You can't buy a house. It's so expensive. Not for me. Not for me. I refuse to believe those things. And again, to some people, that looks delusional. That's okay. I'm willing to be delusional to achieve my dream. And I'm willing to be dogmatic about it, which means I'm going to push back against what anybody's telling me. I'm going to figure out how to make it happen. Y'all, I put this picture up. The house that I'm sitting in, I got my house. I got everything that I wanted. I wanted a 5-bedroom house. I wanted at least 3 bathrooms. I wanted it to have a beautiful backyard. I wanted this certain amount of square footage. I wanted to have a room that I could make a closet. You have to have a vision for yourself for that glow up. I was like, I am a person that has wanted to own a home in California. That's a glow up for me. I want my kids to grow up differently than I grew up. So my vision included other people, right? I wanted to be sure that I had a place where my family could come and we could celebrate holidays and there's space for us and we can have a good time. My vision included others, right? My vision was a little bit delusional. I was dreaming a little bit, but I pushed. And so you can call things into your life that you want, but you're gonna have to be willing to look quote unquote silly to other people at times. And that's okay. Some people may not see it for your vision, but do not allow other people's vision for you to become the vision that you have for yourself if you don't want it. So I just want to read a couple of things to you. And these are things that I say out loud, you know, just all the time. Like, it goes back to, like, you can see this is 2017. Okay, so this is how long that I've been doing these things. And it says, I am a household name known for good things. I am an award-winning best-selling author. I am a blessing to others. I am a living testimony. I am chosen. I am a multimillionaire. I am a homeowner. My family will have generational wealth. I will create and develop a quality use product or service that will innovate an industry. My dreams are not limited to the scope of my mind. God will not place desires in my heart that he has no intention to not fulfill. 2021. I am a woman entrepreneur with $1 million revenue business. I am walking in my purpose. I am a best-selling award-winning author. I am an investor in dreams. I am an ideator who has vision and focus to be an executor. I am never discouraged by what things may look like because I know that my destiny is fulfilled. I am influential. My internet personality will bring me income. And so I'm just sharing these type of things with you because this is the type of stuff that I write about myself. That's the type of dogmatic energy that I have. Those are the dreams that I'm willing to pursue. That's the type of delusion I'm willing to walk in because I want my vision to come to life. And so I hope that you're encouraged by this. I hope that you realize you can glow up, but the glow up is not just about the things that you can do on the outside, but it starts with the vision that you have for yourself. That is really the foundation to glowing up. And if you really want to shine and you want to live the hottest life that you can, follow those principles. Well, that's all I have for you today, hotties. Remember, keeping a vision is really how you glow up. Number one, your vision has to include other people. Number two, you have to see the vision in your life before you can bring it into your life. And three, your vision requires the 3 Ds: delusion, dreaming, and dogmatic behavior. Push for it, honey, and make it happen. If you loved everything about this video, be sure to subscribe, like it, comment, and share so that we can bring more hotties into the community. As always, I love spending every Friday with you all. Truly, it's the highlight of my week. And I can't wait until I see you next time. Until then, bye.